Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de whether the Acorns app has any value whatsoever in the grand scheme of things, if you want to get to fire especially. Hey, XenPuck here. Another day not grinding in a cubicle. I mean, some of this I can thank the Rona for, but honestly, I'd still be chilling at home making clips whenever I feel like, having zero reservations about who might be offended by me. So life is good. So today I want to talk about one of the many investment apps out there, right? Maybe it should be called an investment platform of sorts. But honestly, it sounds good on paper because it advertises that it helps the every man or woman save seamlessly from their spending that they do anyway, right? I am talking about the app called Acorns. I will link the nerdwallet review in the description below. And really, this is my commentary on the pros and cons of the nerdwallet said review. Because I think, obviously, I like their website a lot and I enjoy the review. But I also think that financial sites are almost always a bit biased, right? And have to remain diplomatic because they most likely make some money via referrals to these same apps, right? I don't have that problem because I make no money via my clips, okay? So I can tell you my explicitly honest opinion. And on Acorns, oh boy, it is not good. So my take will be primarily about refuting what this review thinks are the pros of Acorns, right? First, a quick description on what initially made me think of this app as the type of kind of plucky underdog situation, right? Acorns basically will round off your transactions to the dollar and invest your spare change to their account, and once it reaches a very low level, only $5, you can then pick from a limited list of ETFs they offer, right? And for these services, the current pricing at the lowest level is $1 per month. They do have higher price tiers with slightly more features, but honestly, I'm going to ignore the higher tiered options entirely because the main way to fund this account is via spare change. So think about that for a second. If the input is meant to be at a minimal level, you certainly shouldn't be trying to pay more to handle the ostensibly small amount, right? Now, the actual investment options are very robo-advisory based, meaning that you won't be able to get any human help on that front if that's important to you. But in this day and age, and if you're only investing spare change level of money, the no human advisor help part is probably to be expected, right? So point two. Now we're going to address what the review called the pros of Acorns, right? Subpoint number one, automatically invest spare change. Okay, that's true. But the problem with rounding off the dollar to every transaction is that there's literally no way to scale this type of saving upwards, right? Ever. Unless you made it a mission in life to purchase all your grocery items separately, which is absurd. Luckily, I can give you some personal example since I record every transaction that I make every month. So I went to see what I would have gotten via this method of rounding off the dollar. Well, on my most transaction-heavy months, I only averaged about 50 a month, right? Considering that I didn't count whether these purchases were slightly more than $1 or slightly less to the dollar, I just assumed that each transaction will average out to be about 50 cents. So for 50 transactions per month, I would have saved $25 a month for a total of about $300 a year. Now, if I were investing on Acorns, I would have paid $12 that year off the $300, and that's an expense ratio of 4%. Good God, that is incredibly high, right? Of course, the cost management goes down if you accumulate more money. But let's say to get to like $5,000 and an effective expense ratio at that point of 0.24%, at the clip of $300 a year to get to $5,000, it would take 16 years of saving for a measly $5K. I mean, this is why I do not consider investing via Acorns a real method, right? The rather inflexible minimum monthly fee doesn't seem like a lot at $1 per month, but it's really quite a lot considering how low most balances must be. And once again, it's not like anyone can ever suddenly increase the number of transactions per month. In fact, I'd argue having less transactions in any given time frame, that would be an indication of better planning and something to be aimed towards rather than more transactions for the sake of saving a few more quarters at a time. Now, subpoint number two, which is the next pro, they have some service about cashback at certain retailers. Okay, that's true, but who cares, okay? Just get a better rewards credit card. You'd get better cashback at better rates and faster too. If you read how the cashback for Acorns with their retail partners works, it says you get the cashback in 60 to 120 days. Oh my goodness, Jesus. Who would ever remember whether they actually got what they thought that they would get after 4 months? holy crikey, this is just superfluous fluff that, that Acorns put on their website. Completely not trustworthy, I would call it. Subpoint number 3, educational content available. What? Seriously, do I think an investment app will actually give me advice that's not self-serving? Really? I mean, since Acorns only offer passive ETFs, do you really think that it will educate anyone away from the product that they use? It wouldn't make any logical sense, right? Look, I'm not saying that a finance app can't do some light financial education. I'm sure it can and does do that at a basic level. But education should come from neutral sources rather than places that actually will try to sell you a single type of product, right? So for people who really want to learn, there's a plethora of options out there. Heck, right here in this channel. If you're watching this channel, you're learning about personal finance to a greater extent than Acorns could ever teach you. Okay. Now, point number 3. I was going to talk about the cons and whether I agree with those, but you already know that I do, right? It's basically that the fees are high compared to the likely balances and that their portfolio choices are also limited. Again, that's to be expected, right? Considering we're talking about a low level of investing here. So you cannot expect like 5-star hotel treatment when this is clearly a starting point. But instead, I am going to look at, what the NerdWallet review thought would be the right kind of people for Acorns and see whether I agreed with that. So what they mentioned was Acorns could be good for hands-off investors, people who struggle to save, and custodial accounts for kids, right? I'll skip right through the custodial accounts for kids because frankly, I don't think it's even worth it for that reason to be paying anywhere near a basis point or more in fees at this low level, especially for kids, right? They'd have even lower account values, right? Now, for the hands-off investor, what? You can easily pick any major index funds from Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, really anybody. And that would be perfectly hands-off, right? You don't need Acorns with its much more limited selection if you just take a moment to do some research. And I'm talking about maybe like an hour or 2 of your time on the front end. And then boom, after that, you pick, whatever index fund that you want, and you could literally just index fund or ETFs. You can just occasionally put money into it via a brokerage firm that allows fractional shares, and you're done forever. Okay. And for people who struggle to save, you think Acorns is good for people who struggle to save? I mean, you know what? I guess that's kind of true. Because if you don't know how to save at all, Acorns will now save you $20 or $30 a month. So yes, this financial app will make this group of people feel slightly better about themselves, right? Now that they have a few $100 in the market, I guess, right? I think this is the only plus that I can think of, right? But frankly, I'd hope that whoever's in this group will mature out of it in a year or 2 at most, right? Because the problem that I mentioned previously holds true here, and that's scalability, right? Yes, saving, let's say $300 to $500 a year. That's better than nothing. But that's too low of an amount to be meaningful. Eventually, an individual will need to 10x, if not 100x, the savings amount. That's never, ever going to happen or come from simply saving, on average, 50 cents per transaction, okay? Spare change is only a symbolic start, but it's just not enough by itself. So, in conclusion, I really like the idea of Acorns because who doesn't like pretending they're getting something from spare change, right? But I think the only way to justify using its limited ETF choices is if it costs $0, especially at the low amounts. I would say anything under 10K should be plain on free. But frankly, I'd imagine most of their clientele is exactly in the low balance region, and their extremely high fees comparatively as a percentage of balance is actually their business model. To me, that means this app's aimed towards people who are completely uneducated at personal finances, and frankly, it feels kind of predatory, right? I'm talking about they're aiming at people who probably haven't even heard of Dave Ramsey yet. Okay, I can only ever recommend this to someone who's literally never saved a cent in their lives. And even then, I'd suggest moving out of this app's ecosystem within a year or 2 when you get more comfortable with investing as a concept. Anyway, have you ever used Acorns or been tempted by this concept? What's your favorite newish financial app? Let me know in the comments below. And oh yeah, subscribe, like, and share, and all that jazz. Or whatever you want. Okay, cheers. À la prochaine.